Hello, everybody. Today we start our next Startup Leaders Club, online panel discussion by the inspirational leaders of innovation and drivers of change. Today is devoted to the global crisis as a fast track to the new reality. And we'll have a look at the disrupting industries, creating new business models, and finding new opportunities in crisis. Today I have my co-moderator, Gianpaolo Parigi, venture capitalist and chair of Single Family Office, and myself as an independent director of the board of the National Alternative Investment Management Association, and our honorable speakers, Ben Forster, founder of Prodify and chief product officer of Go Canvas, Kevin Jesting, co-founder and CEO of EasyBnB, Will Martino, founder and CEO of Cadena, and Makram Saleh, founder of Medicus. So I'll give the floor to my co-moderator, Gianpaolo, also to give a few words on today's discussion.
Yes, good day, good morning, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Gianpaolo Parigi, a serial entrepreneur, venture capitalist, and chairman of the family office, of the single family office of our family. And we are today discussing about the implications, the consequences, the reactions of the huge transformation crisis that the world is living under the coronavirus. We have together a number of promising, good companies from different parts of the world, and we are going to listen, I think, to very good commentary today on the situation seen from the inside, from the cockpit of companies that are really navigating the ocean in this turbulent times. So without further ado, I would leave the floor to our guests. Thank you.
William, could you please briefly introduce yourself and tell us what currently you encounter in your segment and company?
Sure. Thanks for having me on this. I'm Will Martino, I'm co-founder, CEO of Cadena. Cadena is a blockchain platform that's built for doing real business with smart contracts. We started out of JP Morgan's Blockchain Center for Excellence. I actually came out of the SEC's cryptocurrency working group before that. And now we have a scaled mainnet. You've been looking for sharding in production. That's one of the things that we rolled out into production in January of this year. We also have a private chain and then a smart contract language that makes rapid iteration of apps really easy and also really safe, called Pact. And the way that the pandemic's been hitting us has been kind of interesting because we were already, once we had launched our main network, we were already transitioning to a work remote culture. So, and this was, the full transition was supposed to take place at the beginning of March. And because we were already on that path, and because we're in crypto, we had seen this coming and boiling in Asia for all of January, because it was slowing down our business progress there when it comes to exchange integration, which then also leads to sales of tokens and being able to onboard dApps and being able to onboard other users of the platform. So we had already seen it slowly coming, and by the time that it hit, late February, early March, we just made the call of, all right, we're 100% work from home. Like, everyone make sure they're set up. And then we also spread around our executives around the North America so that we didn't have too many people in the same city at the same time, because we thought it was going to get quite bad. It has. So sales, everything is just slow now. Everyone, back in March, we came to the theme of we're going to give all of our business partners at least 2 weeks to get all of their crap together, because everything is just kind of on fire and most people are not prepared for working remote. So they are going to need some time. That has been extended to about 4 weeks. I don't expect things to pick up until really May. We can have some conversations and do some work, but a lot of people are having a lot of trouble. A lot of companies are having a lot of trouble just getting regular progress, forward momentum going again. And it's no surprise, there's a lot of people who are at home and they just kind of stare at a wall for like 30 minutes or an hour randomly during the day, because they're just like, holy crap, what in the world is happening? And that's a fair response, because holy crap, what in the world happened?
Thank you so much, William. And what do you experience, Makram?
Yeah, hello. I'm Makram Saleh. I'm glad to be here, co-founder and chief product officer at Medicus AI. I'm not in the crypto space, so I kind of feel outsider here, but being at health industry, you can imagine like we already have a huge impact, and both from both sides. Like on one side, it's the industry is changing super rapidly. On the other side, some enterprise work, as William said, is slowing down. So it's the whole business is slowing down. So it is crazy times for us. We are also distributed across several countries, between Middle East, between Europe, and yeah. So to the company, it was not that bad of an effect because we are already used to remote working and used to working from our homes. Again, to the industry, it was great. We started several initiatives as a way to react to this pandemic, basically. One of them is I don't know if I'll have time later to talk about it. It's an app as a response for COVID-19. So yeah, and we're definitely seeing a lot of interesting movements in terms of collaborations between smaller companies, between bigger companies as well. And yeah, so and the nice thing that I'm saying is that despite this stressful times, we see a lot of positive collaboration. So people are collaborating without asking first, like what's commercial benefit. And this is like what we started as well as a non-commercial initiative, and we can see the impact of it on on everyone in the industry.
Thank you very much, Makram, and I give the floor to Kevin.
Hi everyone, my name is Kevin and I'm the CEO of the company called EasyBnB. So we have nothing to do with crypto as well, but we're doing property management. Most of it is like property management on short-term rental. So we manage properties like on Airbnbs and Booking.com and HomeAway, TripAdvisor, on about 30 of them. Obviously, we're heavily impacted since we rely on tourism industry. And all the city where we operate apartments have the border pretty much shut down. So we saw a drop of like 90% of our revenue for this month and the coming months until it's back to normal, which obviously like made us take drastic decisions, but also think about what we can do in order to generate revenue for the coming months. And it came kind of at the bad timing because we raised our first round of investment last year. And since earlier this year, we were looking and discussing with several venture capital to raise a second round. And obviously now things are changing. So it's going to be like interesting to see how this goes, which I can develop later.
Okay, thank you very much, Kevin. And Ben?
Sure, thanks for having me as well. I appreciate it. So I represent two different companies. One of them is a company called Prodify, which is a product management advisory practice that I founded a few years back. I work with a lot of different technology companies through that advisory practice. The more important role, though, for the sake of this conversation, is I'm also the chief product officer of a company called Go Canvas. And our company created a platform that allows small to medium businesses to create their own mobile application that they can then deploy to their employees. So you can imagine replacing a lot of pen and paper-based processes for workers who are out in the field doing their work, whether that's electricians, plumbers, construction workers, et cetera. So that's the nature of our business. We're majority invested by a PE firm called K1, based out of Los Angeles, and I'm based near Washington, DC in the US. The impact of the coronavirus pandemic is sort of like twofold for our business. It's kind of interesting because our platform can be used for a wide variety of purposes. We've actually seen interesting shifts where certain types of businesses aren't really coming to use our product anymore because their business is so heavily impacted themselves. Like it's not really affecting us directly as much as it's impacting our customers. And then the second thing that we've seen though is, obviously the associated economic impact where people are quarantined is kind of like depressing a lot of the usage in certain kinds of like categories as well. But we also see new ones that are coming up. So for example, we see previously we've had a category of companies using our product like cleaning services, or where employees need to kind of like do health check-ins. And the increase that we've seen in demand for those types of use cases has really kind of like gone through the roof in the last couple of weeks.
Thank you, Ben. And I will give the floor to Gianpaolo.
Yes, well, actually, as the venture capitalist that I am, I have a question for you that diverges one moment from the discussion on what's going on in the market these days. And I would like to rely on your individual experiences as entrepreneurs. Looking back at your individual history, which is the mistake that you think you have committed in dealing with my colleagues in the past, if ever there was one? The mistake that you will not do, will not repeat ever again. I'd be very interested in understanding this from you. Thank you.
William?
Sure, I'll go first. What's the mistake that we've made working with VCs? I mean, it's a tricky question. I think that given more experience, probably the single thing that I need to at least like guard myself from doing is trying to like overthink what a deal structure would look like. Trying to make it. We're good at Cadena. We're very good at designing very complicated things that work for a number of different reasons, but they're subtle in the way that they are need to be understood. And like we've definitely put together like a deal structure that makes sense if you have 10 minutes to talk to someone about how it works and why it makes sense. And I think understanding how most VCs, like getting to that stage, you almost have to be a serial entrepreneur. You have to be in your second or third for them to sit down and give you that time. Or you need to have this really long built up relationship that just takes longer than we had initially anticipated to get together, and get to that point of trust that we could actually sit down and explain. It's like, here's why this looks like this, here's why this looks like this, here's how this market works, here's how it integrates with Asia, here's how it integrates with Europe. So I think probably that, of trying to keep it very, very stupid simple. And anytime that we move away from that, we generally, I've seen issues of just like us losing our audience and coming away from a conversation with, wow, they just didn't, it's like they're not even doing simple math. But at the end of the day, if your message isn't getting across, then you need to boil it down even further.
Thank you, William. And Kevin?
Yeah, I would say like one of the mistake maybe we made at the beginning that we don't make anymore is we try to ask feedback when people decide not to invest, because I think the feedback from VC who decide not to invest is very important, and it helps you to get closer to their expectation. And if you see one feedback coming back like 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, you probably have like to take it into consideration, change it or adapt based on this feedback. So I would say just to put more like trying to ask as often as possible when they're okay to develop why they don't like or why they don't want to invest at that time. I would say that's maybe a common mistake at the very beginning, especially for the first round, that we don't make anymore.
Thank you, Kevin. And Makram?
Yeah, I can't say like we had big mistakes, but what I'm saying, and it's like interesting to see now, is that there's a famous saying that goes like, look before you leap. But startups, and I guess all of you agree to this, is usually do the opposite, right? Like they leap before they look, because they want to grow fast. They want to just like have opportunities before it's too late. So in some cases, I think we did the same mistake in that we leapt before we looked carefully, and we that means that we did some changes or did some even growth before we were sure of the promises, either of funds or of opportunities. Because we didn't see that there will be like this big pandemic that will change the whole landscape. And now you can see it, like some of these promises are not going to be held anymore because of what's happening. So yeah, I guess for me, this is basically it.
Thank you, Makram. And Ben?
Sure. I can't think of specific mistakes that we made in terms of working with VCs at GoCanvas, but at prior companies that I've been a part of, I think the biggest mistake has been allowing an investor to come in who may be disconnected with the founding team on either the time horizon that matters or the multiple that you're trying to achieve in the first place, or the level of risk that you're willing to tolerate along the way, because those disconnects at that higher level usually manifest as disagreements on things that are more on a quarter to quarter or even day-to-day basis, like what kind of investment should go into the product roadmap, how much investment do we want to have in R&D versus sort of like growth, the growth engine of sales and marketing and things like that.
Thank you, Ben. And Gianpaolo?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you all. Kevin, I wanted to add something on the interesting comment that you've made regarding the lack of feedback. Probably the lack of feedback in most cases is due to the fact that you have gone into a cold calling mode with investors that you didn't know very well. Because if you, and maybe I want to pass this as an information, of course, most of you have gone through several rounds of fundraising, so you know it by now. But if you can go through the exercise of approaching investors from a more personal point of view, which means, stepping stone through someone, not necessarily the usual family and friends, although family and friends could be included. They could be a way to get you to a business angel or to even a larger investor. I think if you can connect through personal acquaintances with the investors, the likelihood of getting feedback increases manifold. Because in general, not only the venture capital community, also the banking industry is not really quite pleased to have to disclose why it does or it does not commit to particular lending or investing situations. So, but of course, again, the likelihood of getting feedback, which is very important, because the feedback of the investors will allow you correctly what you wanted to do, Kevin, which is to tweak the venture so that you could make it, let's say, closer to perfection as humanly possible, obviously. And so I think if there is a takeaway from that experience is that every time that we go raising capital, we should go through people that we know, because again, the chances would be in our favor, at least to get a feedback in case of a negative.
You're absolutely right, because I reach out to a lot of venture capital, mostly through LinkedIn, so it's not through recommendation. And I completely agree with what you said, and that's one thing we're trying to do now. So yeah, I completely agree with what you said.
Okay.
Thank you.
What fast track do you see to conquer some new segments, maybe, or what new business model you see in your segments, which you would like to share? Makram?
Thank you for starting with me. I was like building in my mind. So again, like for us, because we're in healthcare, the biggest opportunity that we are seeing right now is that anything related to remote care, so remote healthcare in all its kinds, the obvious and the non-obvious. So the obvious meaning testing, for example, for COVID-19. Like this is for sure, people are now like eager to do that, right? But for us, what we're seeing is the indirect effect of it, and this is like much more promise there. For example, a general example now, like it's let's say an app for pregnant women, either lifestyle or like care or connection to clinics, etc. So these kinds of apps suddenly saw a huge increase in engagement and in usage, because everybody is like afraid of hospitals and traditional care centers, and for the unavailability of these places. So this is one example. Other examples might be elderly care. Other examples are testing at home. So there are so many opportunities that are, it's suddenly like the circle is suddenly bigger. And it's, what also like another angle here is that now anyone can see the benefit of these kinds of apps. So for example, for us, what we do at Medicus is we started with analyzing blood tests. This is what Medicus started doing back in the day. So now anyone can see that impact, right? Because it suddenly made sense that, okay, now I'm more interested in everything, personal health and the health of people around me and the spread of diseases, things of that sort. So this is like, for me, it's I hope I summarize it correctly, but this is the impact.
Thank you, Makram. And Kevin, you also mentioned that your segment was heavily impacted by the current situation in real estate. What are the new business models which could support another development of the segment?
As Ben said, there is a rise of some services, and we realized that, you know, when we take care of the properties, we also do the cleaning, changing the bed sheet and all of that. And because there's nobody, our cleaning team was doing nothing. And at the same time, we see an opportunity to do cleaning special for coronavirus. So this is something we launched this week. So our cleaning team is now not only cleaning our own apartments, but any office, retail, restaurants, or buildings that need not only cleaning, but disinfection. We are able to do that. And that's how we made the switch. So to ensure that our cleaning team is not like doing nothing and we don't have to let them go, but even better, that it can generate revenue for the company. So this is one of the ideas that we're testing now, and we will see how it goes, but it looks quite promising.
Thank you, Kevin. And William? Which new opportunities do you face?
Yeah, for new opportunities and challenges that we're seeing, I'm more hesitant. I mean, I love what Kevin was just talking about. I have family friends who, the husband in the relationship is currently sick with COVID. He's been in bed for a week, and his wife hasn't seen him, and he's starting to get a bit better. He's probably going to be out in a few days, but at some point they're going to need to disinfect that room that they quarantined him in. And a lot of people just like aren't comfortable with that. Like, if I were just, at home and needed to do it with the supplies that I had, I could probably do it, but I prepared for this thing. So I'm coming in, like back in February was when I really started freaking out and getting worried about it. And sad to say it actually happened. But like in their case, like I'd much rather bring a professional crew and who actually has the right personal protection equipment and has all the right stuff. So I love that idea, Kevin. I think you're going to do real well with that. For us, anytime that our institutions fail us, there's opportunity when it comes to trustless systems, and blockchains and the applications that can run on them are the embodiment of a trustless platform. I mean, our institutions failed us. I would love to get a COVID rapid testing app out on top of our platform. I'd love to get just various other privacy preserving, but data tracking systems out on top of our mainnet, because you don't want these applications to fail under load when things like this happen. And you also want them to be, you don't have to trust some central institution. And that trust has been heavily degraded by the world's reaction to COVID and the failure for it to follow the playbook that we've been following for 40 years, 50 years, ever since the Spanish flu, to stop these things from happening and from spreading around the world.
Thank you, William. And Ben?
Sure. I'll probably have a little bit of a different take on this. Like, I kind of think of your question as, what are the immediate changes that you need to make as a business? And being part of the R&D organization of our company, I don't just think of it as what new categories do we go after. And I think the answer to that is going to vary from company to company, depending on what those opportunities end up being. But I think the way that you even think about product development activity in a technology company in a situation like this really has to change very dramatically. I wrote an article recently about this on Medium called Wartime Product Leadership, with the sort of this notion that we've just switched from being in peacetime to being in wartime. And the whole way that you make decisions, the speed at which those decisions need to be made, et cetera, needs to kind of like shift pretty dramatically. And if you look at the way that a lot of teams and things like that have been structured, and you think about the role that research and development plays within a company, you know, sales kind of like processes the volume of leads that are available now, like the pipeline immediately. Marketing looks a little bit further in the future in thinking about establishing a pipeline for the sales team. And then product tends to look even farther in the future, thinking about what kind of product we're going to build in order to have the right product for a future customer that we haven't yet met. And if you think about the kind of the nature of the role of product development, it's really kind of like those types of investments. But in an environment like this, I think you have to get much more short-term focused and think, you know, we've got to be able to pivot immediately. And so even the structures of the teams and the organization of the personnel and things like that need to be kind of like rethought to be optimized less for how much gets delivered over a very long period of time, and more about how you can optimize for the specific immediate business impact that you can have right now, whether that's saving customers, helping to go after a new market segment that previously wasn't big, but has sort of like popped into existence in, you know, very recent days and weeks. So that's kind of like the focus and the kind of orientation that I've had, and like the way that I try to be responsive to this crisis within our company.
Thank you, Ben. Gianpaolo?
Yeah. Well, again, I think, you know, we have to re-engineer a lot of functions across our organizations, not maybe our individual organization, but in a general in society. I'm just thinking of Six Sigma and a lot of other techniques and methodologies that will have to be revised entirely, because as Ben just pointed out, there are situations like these that do not allow anyone to ponder too long. But again, these are, if you all think, okay, coronavirus, I repeat myself, as probably the first global occurrence in history. Even I would say the impact could be to a degree wider and larger than what happened with World War I and II. But still, crises like this can happen every time and all across all decades. You know, even the corona family of viruses presented itself 3 times in the last 21 years. Now, this time it has hit us pretty badly, but the other 2 times still was around and played some havoc. And then we have tsunami and other major disasters. So there are a lot of situations in which especially technology companies and smarter companies can really, as Makram said initially, find a lot of opportunities to reap the rewards in times of dire straits, really. And again, I'm not meaning this necessarily in a, I would say, negative, speculative manner, as much as really adapting to a new order and to a new normal, and trying to benefit the most out of it. I would like to hear your comments on this.
Makram?
Yeah, I'll build on what I started with before. So yeah, the reaction can be in different forms. For us, it's two-sided. So on one side, we double down on what we already were doing. Again, like we in that regard, we also look at it as if it's like a longer game. So it's not just about the short wins, especially that everyone is predicting that, yeah, this huge shuffle, this huge tornado, even if tomorrow COVID ended, hopefully, there will be implications for a very long time, right? So this is, for us, it's a longer game on one side. And on the other side, what we started looking at are so we are good at certain things, how we can capitalize on this and be and quickly build tools, build apps, build services, collaborate with others on short-term things or short-term gains. Again, like one big point here is another way to look at it for me is it's not only about commercial gain or about how can we stay doing well financially, because this definitely is not the right question here, right? First question might be, how can we stay relevant? Like any business, I think, has to relook at what is the core of what they're doing and how can we stay relevant. So I like the example Kevin was giving of how they can stay relevant. So they found something and shifted to it, which is a smart thing to do, right? And this is so it's and because everybody is in this same shift, it's interesting to see how everybody is trying to like just attach themselves to something. Again, not necessarily from what we are seeing in the healthcare, because not everybody, especially in healthcare, they are like really occupied. Most of the, for example, the clients that we work with, labs, hospitals, they are occupied now so much. But you can still see like how they are trying to fit into this new economy. And no one is saying, like, even I'm not pretending to say like anyone knows how the economy looks like right now, right? It's just craziness. But at least in this turmoil, we just have to maintain something, right? Like maintain ourselves in a certain way.
Anyone else like to elaborate on this topic? Ben?
Yeah, sure. I'll throw one thing in there, which is just the way that our team has responded to this has been really impressive. I think anytime that people have a common enemy, right, they tend to galvanize and they tend to work together in new ways that are far better than what you've seen before. I think within our own team, we've seen that, where at the same time that we had to abandon our office and go work remotely, and people have to deal with childcare and a lot of complexities in working, we're actually far more productive today than we were a month ago. And it's just because I think that we all recognize the urgency of the situation. We're all working together. We're all willing to be flexible with our day-to-day responsibilities. And I think that there's a lot of value that can come in that. I think that this is a time period where maybe the right investment isn't to go spend money on paid marketing or something like that when the lead volume isn't going to be there. But that means that there's an opportunity to then reinvest that money back into how we work together, and to think about the new kinds of tools and automation and things like that we can build that will make us come out on the other end of this in a much better position than we started, right? And I think that when you think about the growth of the business, sometimes it can be it can have a masking effect because you're so busy trying to kind of just run the business that you don't have time to be introspective and look back at the way that you're even doing things and to improve upon things in that way. So the only thing that I'd note on that, though, is that you also have to have the potential to be able to do that. That means you have to have the necessary capital. It means you have to have the confidence that you're going to be able to last through this and not get so short-term focused that you're just worried about what's going to happen next week and how do we sort of preserve the team members and the customers and things like that we have. So I think those companies that find themselves in a position that they can afford to make those investments can come out very, very strong on the other side of this. But it does offer, I think, a bit of a reminder about how you need to, make sure that at all times you are in a position to be able to handle crises like this that are hard to predict.
Yes, and Makram?
Yeah, sorry, I wanted to add something to what Ben is saying, and what we're saying is about productivity, basically, because you expect, like in times like this, that productivity will definitely go down. People are working in a different situation, not only from homes, with their families, in different environment, no sufficient infrastructure. but we are seeing the opposite, and not only in our company. We are working mostly 12 hours a day, but also in large corporations that you don't imagine these corporations can react in this way, but they are, and surprisingly, they're even working faster than they used to do. So just a point that I love to mention here, because it's yeah, surprising. I don't know if it's just a short-term effect because people are suddenly like, yeah, let's get this thing sorted, or whether it's an effect of working in a different situation and different environment, and it will have a lasting impact. But definitely this will, like the whole landscape might help with this on the long run. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. So what other new ways of gaining sustainability we could take from this crisis? William?
Well, I wanted to add to the previous couple string comments, which is that we're seeing the normalization of work remote and work from home on a global trial scale in a way that without this, I don't think it ever would have happened. We always needed something where, hey, the world's going to be locked in like their houses for basically 2 to 3 months. And there's a lot of benefit to it. And I also wouldn't be surprised if people, unlike before when everyone, including myself, wanted to move to big cities, I don't know if that's going to be true in the long run. It's not clear if we're going to have this handled within the next few years, so that you don't have to worry about like wearing a mask and like purifying your hands every 5 seconds if you're like living in New York and taking the subway. I hope that we can get past it and we can go to some sort of normal, or back to some sort of being able to be in a big urban environment where I can walk everywhere. But at the end of the day, like the ability to have the flexibility for working remote will be a pretty big game changer. And a lot of people got sent home to like, now they get to hang out with their kids in a way that they didn't used to before. They get to see them every day. They get to help with cooking. They get to help with groceries. They get to help with laundry. Yeah, I think this is all, there are some definite like positives here. How do we get to a more sustainable future? I mean, we can't go back to normal ever, because normal was a crisis. We all knew it. We all knew that like there were negative interest rates. The infrastructure stimulus bill that the US should have done back after the first crisis didn't happen. After the first recession didn't happen. So we can't go back there. We knew where that path was leading. That path was leading to in 20 years, we're going to have this, but way worse in the form of global warming and climate change. Huge migrations, and you're not going to be able to, roll out some new fancy technology really quickly to, kind of like put the genie back in the bottle. So, there are some positives here. My biggest worry for, how to like fast track success in this environment is someone is going to be unscrupulous enough to go and make a app that takes away the privacy from millions, if not billions of people. We've already taken a lot of privacy away from people with Google and Facebook and tracking, but there now is a government push to track individuals on their phones step by step by step, because it does help with figuring out, track and trace for coronavirus. And I get that impetus, and I worry that we don't preserve privacy while we do it, because once we take that genie out of the bottle, we can't really put it back in. So what's the best way to be successful right now? It might be to go and steal millions of people's privacy in a way that is ridiculous. I hope that no one who's watching this does that, because you will make the world a worse place for it. But the kind of like, my inherent skepticism and kind of like dour nature leads me to believe that like there might be a multi-billion-dollar business that comes out of this crisis where you're just tracking billions of people step by step in a way that just puts Google to shame.
Thank you. And Makram?
Yeah, I wanted to add to what William was saying. Like, I can't agree with you more about the government interference here. I don't know if they're nefariously doing this and intentionally trying to like use this situation to invade privacy more. We all know, like, this is anyway, like Snowden made it clear many years ago, right? but now it's even trickier. So, and we are seeing this thing in healthcare as a starting point. So many countries, starting from China, which was a kind of like, okay, obvious that they will do it. They will. So if you want to go out in China in certain cities, you must use an app. Like you cannot go out of your house without using this app to track you. And you would say like, yeah, okay, of course, they will do this there, but they are implementing the same solution in other countries. So Germany started something similar. And we are seeing this, like we are getting actually requests at Medicus to do certain same solutions, and we always try to avoid that. Like for us, it's a very thin line, and it's easy to say, yeah, it's like we do it, but who knows when this will stop, if ever. We don't want to allow this kind of thing to happen. By the way, and here we didn't start to think about it seriously now in this new light, but I'd like to hear from crypto experts, blockchain experts, what kind of things can be implemented to avoid this kind of crisis, and or if I may call it a crisis, like the invasion of privacy. Like, what can we do here? Because there's definitely a push towards that, and I think we can definitely push from the other extreme to help prevent this from happening. So, any suggestions? Obviously, this is a huge subject, but yeah, I think the whole community is eager to look into solutions in that regard.
William, would you address that?
Sure. I don't have the best of news because it's just not a technical thing, it's a political thing. Some historical perspective. Everyone remembers Snowden and PRISM. Before PRISM, there was a system that the CIA had built that basically did the same thing, that was privacy preserving by default, where everything was encrypted, and the only way you could decrypt it is if you went to a judge and got a warrant to go and pull the stuff out. And that's like, and like that got built, it was running, and then it got mothballed, and they did the version of PRISM that allowed people to go and like stalk, people who work in the CIA and the NSA to go and stalk their exes and see their private communications. So it's political. Like, we have the technology already. We don't even need blockchain. We do need cryptography, of course, to do a privacy preserving version of this. But at the end of the day, if you have a craven politician that wants to invade your privacy, then they will. And even if we have a open source solution that has mild adoption, if you can push it as a government, you can push it as a government, and it's just very hard to compete with that. Yeah, I don't have like the best comment on it besides that it's don't forget that this event that's happening to the world, we did to ourselves. This was optional. It was avoidable. It was not inevitable. We could have not had it happen. And not right now, because right now we got to get through all the shit because fucking crap. But later this summer, get on the freaking streets. Protest. We have to address this at the government level. This is a politics thing. It's not a tech thing. We have the technology. We have the people who are dedicated to jump in and do this. Hell, most people will do it for free if you tell them. People who are capable of building this stuff. But we need the politicians, and we need to rotate out the old guard of politicians because, sorry, like pretty much everyone around the world, especially in the US, everyone's over the age of like 65 or 70. Just how about this? Never, ever vote for anyone over the age of 60. I don't think they're thinking long-term enough anymore, maybe even 50. Like, we need to rotate the politicians, and until we do that, all the technology in the world isn't going to be able to save us. And it is scary because it could go the other way of just here's one thing. Everyone is stuck at home. How do you protest while you're stuck at home? Things that you would normally do, like doing a sit-in at a cafe, some civil disobedience, you actually can't do digitally because all that shit is illegal. Because it's all been made illegal because this is just a new kind of field that came over the last 20 years. But you can't do a DDoS. You can't do a DOS attack on someone because you want to protest them for, profiteering off of a crisis. And that's kind of a problem, actually. Like, if people are going to be more remote, not as centralized in cities, not be traveling as much in the future, which is greener and more sustainable and is also safer from a pandemic point of view, how do we actually as society allow people to express civil disobedience? And no government, of course, wants to give you these powers. So they're quite happy to make a bunch of stuff illegal right up front and not have it be a norm, as opposed to the way that protests have been working for the past 1,000 years, where they're kind of a norm and there are certain kind of rules that aren't even found in law about how this stuff kind of works. So I don't have a good answer, I'm sorry.
Thank you, William. And Gianpaolo?
Yes, this is, nobody has an answer. Well, it's a sticky issue. I think personally, I adopted a long time ago a very cynical stance. I think privacy is a thing of the past. The very fact that we are sitting here in a virtual room together because of technology implies that we have already given up, whatever entitlement we wanted to boast on privacy. And this applies on everything. Makram, you were talking about China. China, long before having the application to control the infected people on COVID, had the possibility of controlling virtually everyone already for more than 25 years, because they have a camera in every single elevator in China. So the moment you get in or out of your house, any building, public, state, private, offices, residences, whatever, you are filmed. And that's why they contain crime. So, it's always a double-edged sword. I mean, it could be used, it's yin and yang. It could be used for good and for bad. I think we gotta abandon talking about privacy. I think privacy, also being a relic of the past, will lose appeal and importance even to governments, because it will be getting into this hordes of oceans of metadata information that it's there stored for future occurrences, but practically speaking, unless there is a real need for anyone to go and search, is not touched. I think that what Will pointed out in terms of having more of a cellular society leading to the inability of protesting, it is more of an actual theme and topic, I think, because obviously being all scattered around in a cellular-like type of environment, a society, makes it much more comfortable to a degree, and I'm sure it increases the productivity of the companies, of the entities that can perform from remote. But on the other hand, also it inhibits the possibility of responses of civil society to actions by their governments that could be seen as, say, non-democratic or hostile to, in general, democracy as we conceive it. On the other hand, also we have to consider another aspect that we're talking about: remote performances of companies that are digital in the service sector, technology, but still we need manufacturing, and we need, especially even before manufacturing, we need power generation and food. Agriculture, despite all the progress in mechanizations, engineering, and technology, still need men and women on the deck to work. Otherwise, we're going to have shortage of products within a few months. And again, if situations like this persist for longer time, even the beautiful online conference that we are having here might have to be subject to contingency plans and rationed, because maybe we will have just a few hours of access to the internet on a per capita basis. We're taking a lot of things for granted that are not granted. So those are all opportunities that are available to, I would say, shrewd entrepreneurs and brilliant minds to devise not only better mousetraps, but also to orientate companies to begin service what society will look like tomorrow morning. And that's all I can add on the topic for now. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Gianpaolo. And if each of you could give me one word to summarize and to take it to go for yourself and for your audiences to add to sustainability of your businesses and the communities, what this word would be. Kevin?
Yeah, for me, it will be opportunities. I think it will be two kinds, like the first one is like opportunities right now because of the situation that's gonna fade away when this is gone. But then there is also other opportunities that are gonna last in the way we do things. For example, like probably more people will work remotely. So all the solution like this is not gonna go away when COVID is gone. It's gonna last and it's gonna have an impact. I think whoever is able to work on this solution, like we'll have like many opportunities. So I think like that's where the focus should be and what is important to me. So that's the word.
Thank you. And Makram?
I would say I agree, of course, with Kevin. There are a lot of opportunities. It's easy to be opportunistic, to support certain causes. I think I don't want to sound too philosophical. I think it's especially a good time to be to be compassionate, to be really aware of all people's needs, all people's situations, especially that now we're like almost in no country, like we're in a global village again. So I think my word would be try to resist being a force of evil. So evil is a big word, but I think you know what I mean. Like try to be more a force of good, given all these opportunities that are opening up. Thank you.
Thank you, Makram. Ben?
My word would be react. I think that the companies that will do very well out of this will be the ones that shore up the weaknesses that they have, or that go realize the opportunities that are in front of them. It could be in either direction. You know, some companies are going to get hurt really badly by this, and they can react and they can adapt and they can be effective. Other companies will see new opportunities that are adjacencies for them that they should really be going after. But I think the world is changing really rapidly right now, and much more rapidly than we're even accustomed to, as rapid as that's already been. And so those adaptive companies are going to be the ones that will succeed. And those adaptive individuals will be the ones who are able to succeed in their roles as well.
Thank you, Ben. And William?
So I'm torn on this one. I can either go with the traditional kind of CEO founder side of like, you know, wartime CEO, be aggressive and like adapt or die, or one of these things. But honestly, what's going on right now, it's bullshit. And we have to remember that it's bullshit. If you gave me 2 words, I'd say never forget, because my home city is New York City is getting ravaged. My backyard is Fort Greene. It's been pressed into a field hospital. They're using a forklift to put bodies into the back of an 18-wheeler outside of Brooklyn Hospital, which is right next to it. It's horrible. And we need to remember that this is bullshit, and that this was optional. It was not inevitable. We could have followed the playbook that we had for the last, I don't know, several generations and not had this happen. Like, yeah, so there are some opportunities now, but honestly, it's much harder for everyone because this has been allowed to happen. There's some silver lining, but it's just dominated by pain and just a needless waste. So remember, and then over the summer, or like never forget, and then over the summer, yeah, get out on the streets, protest. Like, we can't allow this to happen again. I'm tired of this BS. I think a lot of us are, especially over the last decade of seeing where things have gone.
Thank you so much, William. And Gianpaolo?
Yeah, I would say, that resonates to a degree with me as well. I would say recalibrate. This is a great occasion to recalibrate our own strategies, tools, and networks.
Thank you, everybody. So we're just coming to an end of today's discussion. Tomorrow, we'll be able to exchange our opinions as well with the new League of Serial Entrepreneurs. And tomorrow's focus would be on crisis communication, and we'll have a special guest on that. And I thank all the panelists today. Thank you for sharing your unique stories and what's going on in your segments, and new add-ons to sustainability, the new reality. Thank you so much, and see you again in our panel discussions and new formats we will create for you. Thank you.